Incoming message.
Welcome to The Explainer. Let's get right into it, because today we're opening up an intelligence dossier that contains, honestly, one of the most astonishing claims ever to enter the public domain. We're going to conduct a clinical, highly analytical review of a statement made by a deeply cleared government insider. The claim? That the United States has covertly recovered multiple, distinct species of extraterrestrial life from crashed vehicles. And just to be clear right up front, we aren't looking at fringe theories here. We are directly analyzing the claims, the biological classifications, and the strategic intelligence disclosure patterns reported by Dr. Hal Puthoff.
Okay, let's dive into this. 4. According to the source material currently circulating among former intelligence insiders, the U.S. government hasn't just recovered one anomalous species. They've recovered four completely distinct biological types obtained through covert crash retrieval operations that have spanned several decades. Establishing this specific baseline is absolutely crucial because it shifts the entire paradigm. We're no longer talking about a single isolated anomalous event, we're looking at a complex biological reality involving multiple distinct entities.
So, to make sense of all this, our dossier today is structured into 5 parts. First, we'll look at the source profile. Second, humanoid biological classifications. Third, non-humanoid biological classifications. Fourth, archaeological cross-references. And finally, the disclosure sequence. Starting right off with Section 1, the source profile. Let's look at exactly who is providing this intelligence.
The man behind these specific descriptions is Dr. Harold Puthoff. He's a physicist with a PhD from Stanford, and frankly, his career profile is virtually unparalleled. Back in the 1970s, he directed the CIA's classified remote viewing program, which was a heavily funded initiative taken extremely seriously by the U.S. government. Fast forward to the 2000s, and he became a senior advisor to the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program. That was a highly classified UFO research unit backed by $22 million in hidden Pentagon funding. And today, he holds security clearances at the very highest levels, presents classified briefings to the Senate Intelligence Committee, and collaborates on reverse engineering programs. So he isn't some guy guessing from the outside, he is a highly cleared insider relaying highly specific data from heavily compartmentalized programs.
All right, moving into Section 2. Humanoid biological classifications. We're looking at species 1 and 2.
And this brilliantly illustrates the strict matrix the intelligence community reportedly uses to categorize these entities. Beyond the obvious macro categories of humanoid versus non-humanoid, the species are differentiated by their estimated technological sophistication and, crucially, their primary interaction methods. These interactions range everywhere from frequent civilian abductions to highly restricted proximity near classified military facilities. It's a very rigid, structured framework for evaluating non-human intelligence.
So, let's clinically contrast the humanoids. First up, Species 1, the Greys. Anatomically, they feature a small humanoid stature, an enlarged cranium, and enormous dark eyes. Their primary interaction profile? Frequent civilian abductions. And what's wild is that this physiological description has remained remarkably consistent across both military and civilian encounters for over 70 years. But then, contrasting sharply, we have the tall whites, categorized as Species 2. Now they're strictly humanoid, but they exhibit a much larger physical structure. They're reported to stand well over 6 feet tall with a noticeably pale complexion and large eyes. Operationally, they're observed utilizing highly sophisticated technology strictly in the proximity of highly classified military facilities out in the Nevada desert. So the differences in both their anatomy and their operational behavior are stark.
That brings us to Section 3, non-humanoid biological classifications. Let's examine species 3 and 4.
Now this is where the physiology aggressively departs from the mammalian evolutionary tree. Species 3 is classified as reptilian. They're reported to utilize upright bipedal movement, but they feature distinct scaled skin and entirely non-mammalian anatomical characteristics. Then we have Species 4, the much rarer insectoid classification. The reports here consistently describe entities possessing a hardened exoskeletal structure, complex compound visual systems, and multiple limbs. From a purely biological standpoint, this is a radical structural departure from human anatomy. It forces any analyst looking at this to consider a reality completely detached from typical evolutionary biology here on Earth.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, archaeological cross-references. Let's look at the deep history.
You know, if you look back, the Sumerian civilization meticulously documented interactions with beings they called the Anunnaki. This term translates roughly to those who from heaven came to Earth.
And what's fascinating is that the Anunnaki were specifically depicted in their ancient records as serpentine or reptilian beings who possessed highly advanced knowledge. But they weren't just passing through, right? These entities directly shaped early human religious and societal structures, reportedly even handing down early Sumerian laws and agricultural systems. If modern governments have indeed recovered non-mammalian reptilian beings, suddenly this ancient Sumerian definition looks a lot less like religious fantasy and much more like an objective observational record.
And this correlation actually extends globally, across completely unconnected ancient civilizations. I mean, without any known contact with one another, these cultures independently documented non-human, primarily reptilian beings acting as teachers and rulers. In ancient Egypt, we see an extraordinary diversity of non-human physiognomy in their deities, like Sobek, depicted with a crocodilian head. Over in Hindu traditions stretching across India and Southeast Asia, we find the Nagas, these subterranean, serpentine beings of immense intelligence. And in Mesoamerica, civilizations like the Aztec and Maya worshipped Quetzalcoatl, the literal feathered serpent who arrived from the sky to bring knowledge. The historical record consistently describes beings arriving from above, possessing advanced tech or knowledge, sporting reptilian physiological traits, and directly interacting with early humanity.
But the correlations absolutely do not stop with just the reptilian classification. According to these intelligence sources, the much rarer insectoid physiology, featuring the exoskeletal structures and compound visual systems we analyzed just a minute ago, precisely matches specific depictions found within ancient ceremonial and religious art from multiple, unconnected cultures. And what this suggests is profound. Think about it. If these distinct species have been physically present on Earth and recovered by modern governments, then our ancestors were simply carving their own intelligence reports on the temple walls literally thousands of years before Roswell.
Finally, Section 5, the disclosure sequence. Let's talk strategy.
So, the crucial point is, why is this highly cleared insider making these claims right now? Dr. Puthoff has held massive security clearances for decades. He could have easily just remained silent, yet he chose to put his name on the record the exact same week the Pentagon dropped its second batch of unidentified anomalous phenomena files. As they say, in the intelligence community, nothing is said publicly by accident. Everything is deliberate. Everything is timed. The release of this biological data is not a random leak. The sources strongly suggest it is a meticulously coordinated part of a much broader sequence.
The sequencing of this operation is almost bureaucratic in its precision. Step 1. Establish the framework by releasing official UAP files. This basically conditions the public to accept that unexplained objects in our airspace are a real thing. Step 2, which we are witnessing right now, uses high-level insiders to introduce the concept of physically recovered craft and their distinct biological occupants. This methodical, step-by-step approach is designed to condition the populace. The end goal? Mitigating ontological shock before we hit Step 3, eventual official government acknowledgement of recovered non-human biological material. This statement naming 4 distinct species isn't the final destination, guys. It is the calculated preparation for that destination.
So we've thoroughly analyzed the source profile, the biological taxonomies, the striking archaeological correlations, and the strategic timing of this ongoing disclosure. Now I want to turn it over to you. Based on this intelligence dossier, which of the 4 species, the greys, the tall whites, the reptilians, or the insectoids, do you think the ancient world was actually depicting in their temple art and historical texts? Take a moment to really think about how these claims challenge everything we know. Thank you so much for joining me to break down this fascinating topic in today's Explainer, and I can't wait to explore our next subject with you soon.
Come to me, chickens, cock-a-doodle-doo!